to the Kula Women's Wellness Tribe, the podcast. Get comfortable, get your walking shoes on, and let's get going. Hello, welcome to a new episode of the Kula Women's Wellness Podcast. Welcome back if you're a regular here, if you come here often, and welcome if you're new here. So this is a part 2. So if you are new, if you've just stumbled upon the podcast, before you listen to this, go back and find part 1. So it was 2 weeks ago. What I'm talking about within this 2-part series is stepping into harnessing the magic of the moon. So in part 1, just to summarize and remind you guys that did listen to part 1, we spoke about the moon in general, how women used to live more in tune with the moon and each other. And we also spoke about the moon phases, particularly the full moon, when I was recording the last episode, it was the blue moon, so it was the second moon in August, and I touched on the new moon. There's a lot to talk about in regard to the new moon. So again, a little reminder, full moon is all about releasing, we let go. New moon is all about new beginnings. If you felt, I'm just going to share a little bit here. So the last full moon, I know in the podcast I spoke about letting go, those things that no longer serve you, writing it down, getting it out. Oh my God, the last full moon, 2 weeks ago, I got my bleed on the day and I was on the struggle bus. It really took me for 6. And which spurred me on actually to want to include a little bit more today about our cycles and how to use the moon and how we can use the moon if you don't have a cycle anymore. And I know I'm very guilty of talking about cycles and things that happen there and syncing to the rhythm of your body. But I know there's women listening to this who may not have periods because of menopause, perimenopause, and you may be on contraception. So when I talk about tracking your cycle, I don't have one. So today is also for you. So I'm going to go through quite a few things today. And as always, just bringing it back to my own experience. Everything I talk about, I've lived, I've tried, it works for me, and I want to share with other people so that hopefully it can work for you. I'm going to start with the cycles and how to sort of link them and use the energy of the moon to help you in your cycle. The first thing you need to do is have a look where we are with the moon. Now, we have a full moon this week on the 15th. So today is the 12th, so 3 days time at September as well, just in case. So if you're listening to this in the future, then it's still relevant, but if you're listening to this right now, present, obviously you're able to sync up. So the new moon is on let me just double check, I've got it on my phone, the 15th. Have a look at where you are in your cycle at this point. So I am just stepping into ovulation. On the last full moon, 2 weeks ago, is when I had my bleed. And like I said, I was on the struggle bus. I'd travelled for 6 weeks, so I was completely off with everything. So my diet, I've been to Vegas, I've been to America. I hadn't been having my chia seeds and flax seeds and pumpkin seeds in the morning to keep my hormone levels balanced. I definitely wasn't eating leafy greens. I tried in Las Vegas. I found one salad place. So I struggled and I really felt it. So first of all, a message out there that, when we do these things, it's okay to break from it when we go on holiday. I live this way when I'm at home because I know the benefits. I know what to eat. I know what exercise to do. I know how much sleep I need. But I don't let that get in the way of travel. So if you go on holiday, I saw someone's post on Facebook and they were They were mad at themselves for the holiday weight they put on. And it just makes me so sad. Like, enjoy your holiday. It's, eat, drink, be merry, all of those things while you're on holiday, because you can come back and pick up from where you left off. We shouldn't be letting these things get in the way. Okay, TED Talk over. Enjoy your life. One day you'll be looking back and thinking, oh my God, I wish I'd ate that cake on holiday, because it really doesn't matter. As long as you know and you are aware of your diet and you're healthy. So, I've lost track now because I went off on that tangent. Okay, let's crack on with the cycle and the moon. We all know that our world is set up to serve the patriarchy. And I've spoken about that before. My boyfriend always laughs when I talk about this, but we still do live in a world that's a man's world. It's not set up to suit the way that our bodies work. It does go quite deep. And I've spoken about this in a previous podcast, but again, just to recap here, so we live by a circadian rhythm, and that just means we go round in circles. It's the same pattern each day, 9 to 5, you're up at the same time in the morning, you're expected to do the same level of work day in and day out until the end of time. But women have a second clock that does need attention, and that's called the infradian rhythm. So that's a 28-day rather than a 24-hour. An infradian rhythm is basically any cycle longer than 24 hours, and it's not surprising that ours is only a day shy of the moon cycle, which is how we're able to... This is where all the feelings and thoughts come around that we're in tune with the moon. We're not in tune with the moon, but biologically. Otherwise, we'd all be having our periods on the same day. But we can personally tune into the moon. I hope that makes sense, because I know a lot of people there's this myth that we're in tune with the moon and our cycles come. Yeah, some people are. I get my period around the full moon, and I ovulate around the new moon. So I am in tune in that sense, but that's natural. Some people do not have that, and that's okay. What you can do, though, is check in with the cycle of the moon and then tune yourself into that, and that's what I'm going to talk about now. So we live in a very male-centered way. Men function on a 24-hour cycle where it's Groundhog Day for their hormones every day. If you've seen that movie, you'll know. Repeat, repeat, repeat. This links to the solar cycle. The sun rises and sets, you wake up, you go to sleep, repeat every day, forever and ever and ever. That's why it's not surprising that the sun is linked to masculine energy. The feminine energy is linked to the moon. The sun penetrates, the sun is hot. I spoke about this in part 1. It links to the energy that we get from masculine. Women we are linked to the moon. So we have this 28-day cycle, which corresponds to the lunar cycle. And there are 4 phases to our cycle, just like there are 4 main phases of the moon. There's actually 8 phases of the moon if we break it down, but we're just going to, for the sake of the podcast and for the sake of taking steps to get into this way of living, we're going to look at the 4. And again, if you're not aware of your 4 phases of your cycle, one of my first podcasts I talk about this, so just have a little scroll through and you can see. But very briefly, we have our winter, which is our bleed. Our spring is coming into ovulation. Summer is ovulation. Then we have autumn, which is the time just before our period. Like I say, I'll go into a lot more detail in another podcast with this. So this means our hormones fluctuate over the course of 4 weeks. Again, rather than this 24 hours that we're kind of forced to live in. If you are also a bit of an astrology nerd or witchy like me, you know that the moon phases have different energies, and this is what I want to go into today. Part 1, I spoke about the energy of the full moon and touched on the new moon, but how do we bring this in line with our menstrual cycle? And why do we need to bring this in line with, why bother? So society is designed for men's cycles. So if you've ever had one of those days and you're like, oh, I need a rest, this is why we're trying to, live in a way that doesn't suit the way that our biology works. And, it's not just our bleeds that affect us. It's not just those few days when we bleed and then that's it. We have the whole month of it's changing. We have our follicular phase, we have our ovulation, we have our luteal phase. These phases all have different energies like the moon. So it's not just 3 days you bleed and then you're back to 24 hours. It's not like that. We have these different phases. And when we try and bend and fit in, this is when our energy depletes and we're tired, we get sick, and we face burnout. And, we're over here facing burnout because we're trying to fit into this way of living. Men can generally function the same way day in and day out because they have this 24-hour cycle. And you may notice that, you face this burnout, you have PMS, you have a hormonal balance, or you just feel like you want to connect more to yourself. If you're stepping into your own spiritual journey and you feel like you want to get to know yourself and the way that your body works, this is why paying attention to your cycle and the cycle of the moon is really going to help you to get into balance. So the first thing you need to do is check the date of your last period. So, as I've said, my last period was on the full moon. So that means that I am in line with something called a red moon cycle. So if your bleed, falls on a full moon, you're following a red moon cycle. If you get your bleed on a new moon, this is the white moon cycle. And this is the most common. If you're not synced like this, then that's okay. Everybody is different. But what you do need to know is, what phase the moon is on when you have your bleed. The moon phases correspondence can help you to understand how to honor your cycle regardless if it matches up with what's happening in the sky. For example, the new moon is a time to rest. You can turn the lights off, you can sit with yourself and think about your intentions, what you want to bring to fruition. And as the light goes stronger into the full moon, ovulation, when our energy is typically higher, and both our bodies and the earth are at their most fertile. If you're not menstruating, you can still focus on this energy to help you rebalance your hormones. So even if you don't have a period and it's a new moon, so this week it's a new moon on Friday, rest. Take that rest. Even if you're not bleeding, so I don't match this, so I'm not going to bleed on Friday. I'm coming into my ovulation. So I'm on the opposite side, the red moon, but I will still use the energy of this this new moon to take my rest. Does that make sense? So it's allowing you to use both here. So if you have both, if you only have the moon, you've got this moon cycle to follow. And you're able to come into this way of living that, without following the moon, for example. So you don't have a period, fine, for whatever reason, and, you're speaking to your friend who does have a period, and she takes, I got my period, so I've honoured my body and I rested. When's your rest day? Because you don't have a period. So when's your rest day? When are you choosing? So this is your rest day, the new moon. So we honour this, and I'm just going to go through a few little tips of how to do this, and then I'm really going to tune into the new moon and setting your intentions. Okay, so let's go through the 4 phases and link them to the energy. So, menstrual phase, so the new moon. So when it's the new moon, this is the winter. So low energy. Make time for rest. Set your intentions. Again, going to talk about that in a second. Reflect on nutrition. Eat nutrient-dense foods around this time to help replenish what is used during menstruation. Again, if you're not bleeding, that's okay. This is the time to honour and nourish your body. The next, follicular phase. So this is the waxing moon. So waxing is on. The way I remember this is wax on from Karate Kid. So waxing moon is the moon coming into full. The waning moon is the moon coming into new. So waxing on, waning off. The waxing moon, so when you start to see the moon in the sky again after the new moon, energy is blossoming again. So think of spring. This is a good time to plant those seeds, start new things. If you're single, start to reach out, maybe go on some dates. All new beginnings here. We then move into the full moon. So this would be like week 2. This is the ovulation phase. Okay, so this is summer. So in our summer phase, when we're bleeding, we let go of what no longer serves us. We set our intentions. We reflect. This is our time to sort of grab the bull by the horns and go, right, what's going on? What do I need to let go of? How am I going to get to where I'm going? In terms of nutrition here, again, up your green vegetables. So I would say to do this all the way through, but this is a good time to step in and do that. The next is the waning moon. So when the moon change starts to begin to disappear again. So leaving full moon and going into your luteal phase, which is fall. This is the longest phase, and this is when, again, you start to slow down again. So coming up to the new moon. So as you can see, by using the moon in this way, you're still getting that cyclical living. You're still able to take a rest when it's the new moon, just like you would if you were bleeding. Bringing more energy into the full moon and really using the energy of the full moon to release and let go, and then we come back down again. So rather than trying to squeeze into this 24-hour, you're still living this 28-day infradian rhythm with or without your period. So just to recap before I move on, if you do have a period, check in with where you're at with the moon cycle. So when you've listened to this, look where you're at on your period, look where the moon is at, see if there's a correlation. If you get your period around the new moon, then you're following the white moon cycle, and if you get your period on full moon, you're following the red moon cycle. So you're checking in with what's happening to the moon and also honouring that in your body. If you don't have a period, you have the different phases still, minus the bleed. So this week, if you're looking outside now and you're listening to this around the 16th of September, it's a new moon. So take some rest, chill, start to look after your body, and then go from there. Keep an eye on the moon. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if you have any questions about any of that. There is a lot to take in, but once it sinks in, don't worry about what the names of the moons and things are. Just find out where you are and go for it. Go from there. And obviously, always you can message me. Now, the new moon, that's this week. Let's have a little bit of a chat about the new moon. So the new moon was the first sort of place that I really got introduced to manifestation and, setting intentions, because I can't even remember how it naturally came, and I was just living by the moon. I was like, right, I've always been attracted to the moon. So I guess it came naturally for me to, I'm guessing I used to be a witch. I still am, but in a past life. So I've always been drawn, I've always looked up at the moon and felt its energy. So I started to experiment looking at what was going on with the moon and, on a new moon, writing down what I wanted to call in. And you can call this all different things. You can have your new moon wishes, your new moon commitments, your new moon intentions, whatever it is, however it is you want to package it, that works for you. The new moon is very powerful for this, and I think because in our heads it's like a new year. You know how dedicated you feel on the 1st of January? It's that, but every month. And the new moon, I think, is one of the most exciting. I love the energy of the full moon. I love releasing and letting go, but then I get excited to write down my intentions for the new moon. And the more you do it, the more you'll see that things start to happen. Every new moon, I go back and check my previous new moon's intentions and commitments, and I can generally tick off 75%. The 25% that I can't is because I know that I haven't taken any inspired action, or I can reflect and think, right, that wasn't the right time for that anyway. So it's also a really good reflection point as well. First thing, and I think I said this in part 1, get your crystals outside under the energy of the new moon. Just go for a walk. So with a full moon, you would do a full moon bath. So either in the bath or outside in your garden, absorbing that full moon energy. For a new moon, I tend to just go for a walk, because you don't have the moon up there to see, because it's new. It's not there yet. So it is slightly different. For me, the new moon is more about sitting down on that day and getting really clear on what I want. Making sure that these intentions, these wishes, these manifestations come from the heart. And one of the most important things here as well is that you can feel them as if they've already happened. So they need to come from the heart, and you need to be able to feel that they've already happened. Why? Because, we can repeat affirmations until we're blue in the face, but if they don't come from the heart and you don't have this energy, this feeling, this vibration of it's already happened, you're wasting your time. So for example, writing down that by the next new moon, I'm going to have a multi-million-pound house and a brand new Ferrari, because you're sort of testing, well, if this really works, then this will happen. Is that coming from the heart? Do you really want a Ferrari? Now, this is a question lots of people who are skeptical ask me, and I don't want one. I'm not a car person, so it's not coming from the heart. It's not going to benefit me. It's not going to benefit anyone around me. Now, if I was really trying to manifest a Ferrari, maybe for my dad or my boyfriend, if it's going to make them happy again, yes, it's coming from my heart to make them happy, but is it something that I really, really want? And can I feel that? Because, is it realistic? So we have to have these goals that, yes, they can be, at the moment, they're not happening, but they need to be something you can feel has already happened. So, for example, I'm in the process of manifesting a new car, and already putting the process in of collecting things that I'm going to need. I'm freelance, so I don't have a salary being paid into the bank. But what I'm doing is I've got pictures of the car on my phone. I'm making sure that I've got all my invoices up to date, moving forward, so that when I go to the car garage, I've got all my evidence there. And I've also had a quote to sell my Mini. So I'm putting these inspired action steps into place, and I have a rough date in my head when I want the car, when I desire to get the car, and I can feel that it's already happened. I keep seeing people driving the car that I desire, and I know that it's coming because I'm putting these things into place. I don't expect to just wake up in the morning and suddenly my Mini's turned into a 4x4. So it's having that feeling. I guess it's kind of, and I hate the phrase fake it till you make it, but when I don't like it, but I'm just going to use it in an example. So I'm just using inverted commas, fake it till you make it, maybe you do have that feeling of, it's already done because you're faking it, but I just don't like the fake. It needs to be from the heart. I just can't think of a rhyme. So you're not faking it, you're feeling it till you make it. I know it doesn't rhyme, but And also think about what you do want. So when you're writing down your intentions, your wishes, your manifestations, do you want it? Do you really want it? And how much do you want it? So you need to think about, okay, why do I want it? Why is this going to help me? And what feelings? So not just thinking, I don't want, sorry, I desire to have a new car. Why? And I tend to ask myself the why to get to the point, because it's going to make me feel happy and safe and secure. Why? Because the roads are so busy. I feel like I need to get something a little bit more sturdy, and, I could go on and on and on. So making sure that it's something that you do want and why it's going to make me feel safe. I'm still going to have that freedom, and, the whys are important. One other thing as well, don't focus on what you don't want. So, let me try and think. So sometimes you might want to manifest, if there's something going on at work and you're trying to, I manifest that this is not going to happen, or I manifest that we're not going to have Tuesday meetings every Tuesday anymore, or something like that. Focus on what you do want. So I desire to have the time on a Tuesday morning to myself because I need to feel I've got the organisation into place, or something, pulling out the air here. So instead of focusing on how much you hate the Tuesday meeting, focus on what you could do with that time that's more beneficial. And you might find that the meeting is cancelled every other week, or something along those lines. I also get people ask me, I don't know, I can't put it down into words what I want. I just know, generally we know what we don't want. And if you're going through a time and you feel shit and you're like, I don't want this, I'm fed up with this, you're focusing on what you don't want. What you need to do is ask the universe, whoever you talk to, your highest self, archangels, guides, whoever you turn to for guidance, what do I want? Ask repeatedly throughout the day. What do I want? What do I want? What do I want? The answer will come if you persist. Pay attention to the messages. Pay attention to the ideas. Things will come into your head and you'll be like, right, okay, yes. Someone will say something and you're like, oh my God, if I had that, it would be so fantastic. And you'll be able to see, you're able to just, instead of focusing on, I don't want, I hate. This is what I used to do. So I used to, I don't want to do this, I don't want to go there, I hate that, I hate them. And I was stuck in a hate. My friends used to send me the Grinch, where he's like, hate, loathe. And that was me. And I'm not that person, but I turned into that because I focused on so much that the things that I hated and disliked in my life, instead of the things that I loved and was grateful for, which then showed me what I wanted more of, or what I wanted to call in more of. You can wish for anything, and I know I mentioned the Ferrari. As long as you can believe you can have it, it can be yours. And I'm guessing for me there's a little bit of disbelief as well. Like, I don't want a Ferrari, but do I really believe I can have one? Probably not. Maybe if I worked on that belief, but I still have that feeling of I don't want one. So I'm not gonna call that in. Your new moon intentions, your wishes can be whatever you want, but they still have to be in baby steps. So you can't go from, I can't go from a Mini to a Ferrari without having to take inspired action of, putting things into place in between. Manifestation works, but I'm not just going to wake up with 100, I don't know how much Ferrari is, a lot of money to just go and buy. I have to put steps in. So it could be that achieving a particular dream or goal is going to be over a few moons as well. And what I like to do is I break down my wishes into small baby steps. So I have the end wish, but then, this new moon, I might manifest, I haven't done my wishes yet actually, but in regards to the car, I might manifest a new client so I can put that money aside. I might manifest someone being interested in buying my car, or, something like that. So very, very small steps. So your new moon ritual then. So this weekend, sit down with your journal, write down the things. So this is how I do it, and this is just suggestions. Do it in a way that suits you. Everybody does wishes and intentions differently, or they feel them differently. So we start with our desire first. And I know I slipped up a couple of times then by saying, how do I want? Replace the word want with desire. If you want something, it shows a lack. So if you're like, oh, I want £100, I need to pay my bill. Okay, that's fine, but we're showing the lack that we want this £100. If you desire this £100 to pay your bill so that you can feel, we're showing the universe that it's a desire. We're not coming from lack. It's something that we desire. And we know the feeling, or we have a desire for a feeling. Always try and link it to a feeling. So when you've written, I would also say, start small. I write 10. I started with 1 or 2. So I have 10 wishes, 10 intentions. Start with 1 or 2, because you have to put the work in. And sometimes it can be, it can be difficult because you're trying to set up magic, there's no other way I can describe it. You're creating magic, and it's not just a case of writing down a list of things, passing it to Santa, and you're going to get them on Christmas Day. There's steps that you have to put in. So step by step. First of all, write down the list, and then pick 2 things from that list. Go for the 2 that intuitively stand out to you. The 2 that you feel are going to have the biggest impact on your life, or your way of feeling. Then when you've got your 2, take time to visualize. So coming into a meditation. So I put on some meditation music. Recommendation here, if you go onto YouTube and type in the Wong, W-O-N-G, Janice, and she has meditation. She's an amazing cello player, but she has cello music for meditation, and it's 3 minutes, 10 minutes, and 30 minutes. If you've got 10 minutes, put the 10-minute track on and just lie and visualize. If you only have 3 minutes, obviously the same, 30 minutes. So read your wishes, in your mind. In your mind, have your visualization. So when we're lying down, we're meditating or sitting down, you're going to visualize each wish as having come true. So you use your imagination to really see it. Then you imagine how you would feel. So I allow that feeling of, oh my God, to fill my tummy, allow the butterflies to come. See it happening in your imagination. So I will see myself getting up in the morning, coming down the stairs. And if I come into the office where I'm sat now, I'll look out the window, I can see my new car sat, and it's beige and it's shiny and it's got nice big wheels and it's a 4x4, and what else? Oh, I can see my little Union Jack cushion on the passenger seat. And I know that I can put the dogs in the back, and we're going to drive out into the desert, and how exciting that is. And I feel it in my chest. Then the fun part. So we've visualized, we've got the feeling, we've set the intention. It's there. That's the wish. So I know I keep flicking between intention and wish. Call it whatever suits. So I call them intentions or commitments, only because I feel like there's a little bit more to it than just blow out the candles and make a wish. I feel like wishes are good, but there's no intention behind it, if that makes sense. So, wishes I feel are like, oh God, I wish, we'd say it flippantly. We're not just throwing a wish out there. We are setting intentions. We are making magic or a commitment. So again, flicking between intention and commitment. I like the word commitment because it shows that you're committed to it. What I do is I have my intention. So my intention is to have a new car within the next 6 months. I commit to, and then I write down the things I'm committing to help that intention. We then come up with an affirmation. So this backs up your intention. So if you're looking for love, for example, I'm in love, notice the present tense, or new job. I love my new job. I love my new car. I love driving my new car out into the desert. It feels so smooth. I feel so safe. And well, I'm getting a 4x4 basically for the dogs. The dogs love it. I'm able to put the dogs in my car now as well. And yeah, it's amazing. So we have that. So I've got the intention, I've got my commitment, and I've got my affirmation. You do this then for each one. So you're just going to pick 2. Obviously, the more you do, the longer this will take. Finally, you come back to your meditation again. So this time a little bit longer. And this is where you release your dreams out into the universe. So the first meditation is your visualization, having that feeling. And then we write them down, we get excited, we get the feelings, we put our commitments down. And sorry, I forgot to mention as well, your commitments are also your inspired action steps. So like I've already mentioned, for me with my car, I'm collecting my invoices, I'm looking at prices, I'm looking at the finance options. In a few weeks' time, I'll probably go to a garage and I'll test drive, that kind of thing. When you come to do the second meditation, we're releasing to the universe. So closing down the eyes, and I talk to the universe. I would say, hello, my team, spirit guides, angels, archangels, my higher council, putting my wishes out or my intentions out for this new moon. And I'll just keep the visualizations there and I say, thank you for my new car. Thank you for allowing me to step into my new car. Thank you for whatever it is that you're obviously trying to manifest here. And then I just end it. I will say, so be it, so it is, thank you, or for the good of all or not at all. This is something better now that manifests for me under the grace and perfect ways. Anything that you feel, if that's too much, keep it to thank you. And then you get on with your life. But having in mind the inspired action steps that you are going to take. Then what you do is reflect on this in the full moon. So on the full moon, I'll come back to my list and go, right, where am I at? Okay, so I haven't done any of my action steps here. So this week I'm going to do this one, and my intention is that this is coming within the next 6 months. So I know it's not going to be here yet, but is it coming closer? Have I put those things into fruition? Am I doing those things? And that is it. I'm just going to end there because I feel like I've given you a lot of information today. There's a lot to go away and play around with. Actually, one last thing just come to my mind. When you're doing your intentions, your manifestations, you also need to let it go. So when I first started this, every morning I would open my journal, I'd go back to my list and I would repeat, and I would be holding on so tight and I wouldn't be letting any magic happen because I was trying to control so much. So let it go, release the attachment, release the control, and trust. I'll end on this little analogy. So when you go to a restaurant, you order your food, you sit down, you'll chat, you'll have a couple of drinks, you trust that the food's going to come. You don't go up to the kitchen and knock on the door and keep asking, where is it? you know that it's coming. That's exactly the same with your new moon intentions and when you're manifesting. So just remember that when you're clasping on. And if it doesn't come, that's okay. That's the beauty of living in sync with the moon when we are manifesting and using the moon to help us with our mindset, with our wishes, with what we intend, our desires, all of the things that we've touched on today. Okay, thanks for listening, guys. I hope that makes sense, and I really do hope that you listen to this and you can go away and you can see where living like this is really going to benefit and help you. As always, if you resonated with anything that I said today, I'd love to hear from you. If you feel like I deserve it, hit 5 stars, leave a review. The reviews are adding up. And yes, I will see you next week. I have an amazing guest lined up. And yes, happy new moon and enjoy setting your wishes.
And that's it today, everybody. I hope you have a lovely week and I'll see you again next week. Don't forget, 5 stars, download, tell your friends. You're amazing.